Happy Saturday. We are back to continue on the cantos of the Inferno, Dante Alighieri's The Inferno, comedy, divine comedy. As I've said, I've not loved this one. I keep digging deeper. So this time I have asked for some help in summarizing not only summarizing, that's what we've been doing, but also dig in a little deeper. So instead of vocabulary this time, I'm going to use some literary devices and spend some time explaining that. So let's look at our summary of what happens in Canto 16. So Dante and Virgil, there they are, still in the seventh circle. We've been there a while. Third ring, the place where those guilty of violence against nature, the sodomites, are punished, forced to run endlessly on burning sand under a rain of fire. So they're still running from that rain of fire. A rain of fire. It makes me think of Johnny Cash. Dante encounters three noble Florentines. Guido Guerra, a wise and respected statesman, grandson of a famous warrior. So these are those things that make it hard for us to understand, because I don't know who Guido Guerra is. Tahagio Aldobrande, a noble counselor known for giving prudent advice. Prudent advice is wise advice, logical advice, not dramatic, not overly impulsive. It's prudent advice is good advice, wise advice. Jacopo Rusticucci, a prominent Florentine, remember people from Florence, Italy, who blames his unhappy marriage for his sins. Oh, if his sins are sodomite. So he's saying he's cheating on his wife because she's not good to him with a man because she's not a good wife. Sounds like people today. Nothing changed in all this time. These men recognize Dante as a fellow of Florentine and speak with him briefly, lamenting the corruption of their beloved city. Dante respects them deeply and is moved to tears at seeing such honorable figures in torment. After the encounter, Dante and Virgil come to a roaring waterfall that pours into the next circle. Virgil uses Dante's cord, a rope girdle he wore. A girdle, remember I told you, is like a sash around the waist. A girdle he wore symbolizing humility, or his Franciscan, which is an order of monks in the Catholic Church. Franciscan hopes to summon the monster Geryon, who will carry them down to the next circle of hell. Some historical allusions. So instead of vocabulary, historical allusions. Allusions are common reference points that make a group of people share that common reference and have a better understanding of the point the author is trying to make. The problem with an allusion is it has to be a common reference point. So for our generation, some of these people, the Florentines, were not common allusions to us, but these are historical allusions because it's a historical reference that makes us all have a common understanding, but we don't, so we use these footnotes. The three Florentines. Dante places well-respected men among the sodomites, not as a cheap insult, but to show that even those with political wisdom and honor were tainted by moral corruption. So that's taking the assumption that sodomy is moral corruption. This reflects Dante's disappointment with Florence, a city he saw as politically brilliant, yet spiritually diseased. So he's making the political, historical illusion that Florentine was a time of corruption and that Dante is trying to point that out through this level of hell. Sodomites as violence against nature, which is thematic allegory. So the theme is that general point, teaching point, the author's trying to get made across to the audience. And so the thematic allegory is, it's not illusion, thematic allegory is this, we're going to tell this story. Medieval thought categorized homosexuality as a violence of nature's order, a violation of nature's order. Hence their punishment in the burning sand, an infertile, sterile environment reflecting barrenness because you can't reproduce. The fire from above mirrors divine wrath, while the endless running reflects restlessness of desire that can never be satisfied. So that's from the time period. Dante's tears is pathos. How many of you have studied ethos, pathos, and logos? So pathos is that passionate emotional appeal. Unlike in some other circles where he feels disgust, here Dante shows compassion, literary contrast that deepens the tragedy. These were not petty criminals, but men of stature. His tears also signal Florence's loss of virtue. The rope girdle, we're going to read about the rope girdle. He mentioned it in the summary. It's symbolism, so that's another literary device. When we use one item to symbolize something else, a flag symbolizes a country, or certain colors symbolize a football team or a basketball team, right? Those are symbols. Dante had worn a cord around his waist, perhaps recalling Franciscan friars, humility, chastity, and poverty. Those are the values of the Franciscans. Virgil throws it into the abyss to summon Geryon. Symbolically, Dante's misplaced reliance on worldly or institutional ties is shed, showing he must rely on divine guidance instead of earthly securities. So we see Dante changing and being changed by this journey. And that's an important part of literature, that a character shouldn't remain static. That character should be dynamic. And as these things are happening to the character, he or she is changed. The protagonist is changed by them. And then finally, Geryon's entrance. Geryon, who will appear fully in Canto 17, is described as a monster. They love to have monsters in these old stories, with a human face, but a serpent's body and scorpion's tail. The perfect allegory of fraud, fair seeming but deadly. His summoning at the canto's end signals the transition from the violent to the fraudulent sinners. So we've got a lot to listen for in 16, and I am going to read it from my laptop. So here we go. Canto 16. Be on the lookout for the men from Florence, Geryon, and some of the tears, some of the things we've talked about. Now could I hear the water as it fell to the next circle, with a murmuring sound like what is heard from swarming hives to swell. When 3 shades all together with a bound burst from a troop met by us pressing on neath rain of that sharp torment, o'er the ground toward us approaching, they exclaimed each one, "Halt there! Whom from thy garb we judge to be a citizen of our corrupted town. Alas, what scars I on their limbs did see, both old and recent, which the flames had made." So they're scarred up from the fire falling on them. And is the fire not falling on Dante and Virgil? Interesting question. Where did I lose it? Where's my face? Where's my fire, which the flames have made? Even now my ruth is fed by memory. My teacher halted at their cry and said, "Oh, wait a while," and looked me in the face. Some courtesy to these were well displayed. And but that fire, the manner of the place, descends forever, fitting toward to find rather than them the quickening thy pace. When we had halted, they again combined in their old song, and reaching where we stood into a wheel, all 3 were intertwined. And as the athletes used, well oiled and nude, to feel their grip and wary watch their chance, ere they to purpose strike and wrestle could. So each of them kept fixed on me his glance. They kept looking at me as he wheeled around, and in opposing ways his neck and feet seemed ever to advance. Ah, if the misery of this sand-strewn place bring us in our petitions in despite, one then began, and flayed and grimy face. Let at the least our fame goodwill incite to tell us who thou art, whose living feet thus through inferno wander without fright. For he whose footprints as thou seest I beat, though now he goes with body peeled and nude, more than thou thinkest in the world was great. The grandson was he of Gualdrada good. He, Gio Dugera, with his, that's our first one, with his armed hand, did mighty things, and by his counsel shrewd. Oh, his counsel shrewd. Okay. The other who behind me treads the sand is one whose name should on the earth be dear, for he is Tahayo, Aldebrand, and I who am tormented with them here. James Rusticucci was my fierce and proud wife of my ruin, was chief minister. Was my fierce and proud wife of my ruin. Wife of my ruin was chief minister. I don't understand how to put that sentence together. If from the fire there had been any shroud, I should have leaped down among them, nor have earned blame, for my teacher should have this allowed. But since I should have been all baked and burned, terror prevailed the goodwill to restrain, with which to clasp them in my arms I yearned, like he wants to greet them. Then I began, 'twas not contempt, but pain which your condition in my breast awoke. When deeply rooted it will long remain. When this my master words unto me spoke, by which expectancy was in me stirred, that ye who came were honorable folk. I of your city am. I'm from Florence, and with my word your deeds and honored names oft to recall, delighted, and with joy of them I heard. To the sweet fruits I go and leave the gall, as promised me by my escort true. But first I to the center down must fall. So may thy soul thy members long endue with vital power, the other made reply, and after thee thy fame its light renew. As thou shalt tell if worth and courtesy within our city as your remain, or from it have been wholly forced to fly. For William Worsier, one of the yonder train, and but of late joined with us in his woe, causes us with his words exceeding pain. Upstarts and fortunes suddenly that grow have bred in thee pride and extravagance. Whence tears, O Florence, thou art shedding now? Thus cried I with uplifted countenance my face, like I'm lifting my face up in prayer. The three, accepting it for a reply, glanced each at each as hearing truth men glanced, and all, if others thou shalt satisfy, as well at other times, at no more cost, happy thus at thine ease the truth to cry. Therefore, if thou escapest these regions lost, returning to behold the starlight fair, then when there was I, thou shalt make thy boast, something of us do thou among men declare. Then broken was the wheel, and as they fled, their nimble legs like pinions beat the air, so much as one Amen had scarce been said, quicker than what they vanished from our view. On this once more the way my master led, I followed, and ere long so near we drew to where the water fell, that for its roar speech scarcely had been heard between us two. And as the stream, which of all those which pour east from Mount Viso counting, by its own course falls the first from Apennine to shore, as Aquachetta in the uplands known by name, ere plunging to its bed profound, name lost ere by Forlì its waters run, above St. Benedict with one long bound, where for 1,000 would be ample room. Now here's my criticism. I'm going to stop. It's a lot of words. And if you followed me, I love a well-crafted sentence. I love a really well thought out, well-designed, perfect word choice sentence. This just seems to be lots and lots and lots of words that are not creating a visual image in my mind, that are not telling a story in my mind. It just seems like it's a lot of disconnected words. I'm really struggling with this story. So I'm sharing that with you because if you're struggling with it, I don't want you to be discouraged and turned off by literature. So often we make young students read things like this, and I get it, it's foundational. It goes way back into classic literature. But what's the point? Tell the story, get on with it, not just all these words. If you have thoughts about that, those of you that are much better literary teachers than I am, jump in here. If you're a student that says, yeah, I get it, that's why I don't like it too. Let's, that's why I like using footnotes and tools that help the story make more sense, like the summary I did at the beginning. So down the steep cliff that water dyed in gloom, we found to fall echoing from side to side, stunning the ear with its tremendous boom. There was a cord about my middle tide, there's his girdle, with which I once had thought that I might hold secure the leopard with the painted hide. When this from round me I had quite unrolled, to him I handed it, all coiled and tight, as by my leader I had first been told. Himself then bending somewhat toward the right, he just beyond the edge of the abyss threw down the cord, which disappeared from sight, that some strange thing will follow upon this unwanted signal which my master's eye thus follows, so I thought, can hardly miss. Ah, what great caution need we standing by those who behold not only what is done, but who have wit our hidden thoughts to spy. He said to me, meaning Virgil, there shall emerge, and soon, what I await, and quickly to thy view that which thou dreamest of shall be clearly known. From utterance of truth which seems untrue, a man, whene'er he can, should guard his tongue, lest he win blame to no transgression due. Means you should think before you speak. Guard your tongue. Like don't let your tongue just wag without thinking about what you're saying. Yet now I must speak out, and by the song of this my comedy reader, I swear, so in good liking may it last full long. I saw a shape swim upon through that air, upward through that air, all indistinct with gross obscurity, enough to fill the stoutest heart with fear, like one who rises have dived to free an anchor grappled on a jagged stone, or something else deep hidden in the sea, with feet drawn in and arms all open thrown. So he's luring in this monster. He's preparing for it in the next canto. So come back and read with me the next canto. It's not the last canto. It goes on and on and on. Hopefully we'll get it done. I can't wait to get this book done. In all the years I've been doing this, I always finished every book, even if I didn't like the book. I've cut things out every now and then, but I finish it. So I will be back and I will keep reading, and hopefully we'll get through this book together at some point, and then hopefully we'll go into something that we enjoy more. Thank you for being here. We keep building. We're not even to 80 yet, 2025, but I'm not giving up. We've got time. I'm going to keep reading. I was really busy at work this week, so I only got the reads from last weekend, and now I hoped to read last night, but I was just too tired. So today's Saturday. I'll read today. I'll read again tomorrow. So I'll get at least 2 more in this week. But there are a lot of cantos, so it's going to be a while. Thank you for subscribing if you have. If you haven't, consider it or engage with me, because that's how I can grow the channel. And the thumbs ups help other students know, hey, this is a useful tool. It's helpful. And if it's not helpful, don't be too unkind. But I do it because I enjoy it, except I'm not enjoying this particular book. That's okay. Sometimes we just do have to do what we have to do. So thanks for reading with me. Subscribe if you will. And I will read to you next time. See ya. Bye, Yara.